Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. I'm Lucas, and Eric couldn't make it today. He's currently studying for an AP exam, but we're wishing him luck. I'll be doing this one alone, but he will be back very, very soon. So it has been a very long time. It's been like 2 months now since we last made a video, but today I'll be taking a look at if Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has a chance at winning the Republican nomination in 2024. As most of you know, Donald Trump is the main frontrunner right now for the Republican nomination in 2024. But there are lots of rumors and talks that Ron DeSantis is going to enter this election and is going to try to win the nomination. And I'm going to take a look and see if he really stands a chance. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So, as I mentioned, DeSantis is currently possibly regarded as the biggest possible contender for the presidential election primary, other than Donald Trump. He is currently the governor of Florida. So, let's take a look at some of the past elections he's run through. So, I actually first do want to note, though, that 2 years ago, in 2020, actually before the presidential election even happened, Eric and I made a video of a hypothetical presidential primary of 2024, which is crazy to think about. It's been 3 years now, I think, since we started this channel. But we made this video. It was one of our earliest videos, I think, actually. And I want to note that we actually predicted uh, probably two of the possible candidates. Nikki Haley has announced. Ron DeSantis looks like he probably is going to announce as well. But I'm gonna be honest with all of you. It's not one of our best videos. It's very hard to do a hypothetical primary election that early of a prediction. So hopefully this video and future videos are gonna be much better in predicting the primary. So now discussing Ron DeSantis. He was initially a congressman. He was first elected to be governor of Florida in 2018. He had a very, very close election against progressive former Tallahassee mayor now, Andrew Gillum. He won by 0.4%, very, very narrow margin. And the map looked like a traditional margin for a Florida Republican. Now, what happened in last year's midterm election, it kind of took a lot of people by surprise, and that is Florida had a very strong red wave last year. Ron DeSantis was reelected by 20 points, actually, almost 20 points. And it's really unheard of in the modern times to see Florida vote 60-40 Republican or even 60-40 Democrat. Usually you think of Florida as a swing state. This is the first time in a very long time that it ever voted this much of a lopsided margin. So, what does this show us about 2024? I mean, it can show that Ron DeSantis can be very popular in Florida, but part of the reason why he won in such a large margin, at least in my opinion and some other people's opinions, is that a big part of that was because of the Florida Democratic Party. The Florida Democratic Party has been doing quite poorly for several years now. In 2018, even they didn't do too well. They lost Bill Nelson, who everyone expected to win that Senate election, especially with the Hispanic voters. The Florida Democratic Party has seemed to be lagging behind in that. As we can see in this election county map, Ron DeSantis really swept the entire state. You had traditionally very, very Democratic counties turning red. Miami-Dade counties being one, Broward County being the other, turning very, very Republican in this election, which honestly took, oh, sorry, not Broward County, Miami-Dade and, gosh, this county. I don't remember its name, unfortunately. It'll come back to me at some point. Oh, Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County. Two traditionally very Democratic counties turned red for the first time. And again, I think a big part of that did have to do with the Democratic Party kind of falling off here. And also Charlie Crist wasn't exactly the best candidate. He was a pretty flawed candidate. He, was a Republican, then an independent, then a Democrat. So he wasn't really seen as very popular among the Democrats. So the reason why DeSantis could have done so well might have been because of that greater enthusiasm on the Republican side and really a lot of voter apathy on the Democratic side for such a candidate. So this could show us that Ron would do well in a Florida primary, but it's really hard to see a correlation between how well he did in this election versus how well he would do on a national stage. it does seem like people in Florida would rather him be governor than see him as a president. I also did want to talk about endorsements now. This is a page of Trump's endorsements in 2024. Obviously, it's a very extensive, very long list. Lots of sitting representatives, lots of sitting senators have already endorsed Donald Trump for president, which is a very bad sign if you're a contender like Ron DeSantis, who is trying to get those supporters. But I think what I want to point out was what's even worse with this is that in the state of Florida, several of the representatives there have endorsed Donald Trump. Now, this is Donald Trump's technically his home state, but Ron DeSantis is the governor here. He is known for being the governor here, and he's known for being from the state of Florida. And it's very interesting to see so many Florida representatives choose to back Trump instead of the favorite son here, technically, in the primary, Ron DeSantis. And this is especially probably concerning for the DeSantis side, considering that DeSantis has talked with a lot of these members of Congress and has told them, their team tries to tell them to hold off on endorsing Trump for now until DeSantis announces. He lost several endorsements in the state, and he really only has one, I believe, is Laurel Lee. And the other thing to note is that it's not just the super Trumpy Republicans that are endorsing Trump in Florida, too. Obviously, someone like Matt Gaetz is going to endorse Donald Trump, but it's even the less Trumpier people like Greg Stube or Byron Donalds. These are representatives that DeSantis should, in theory, be getting the endorsements of. But the fact that they've endorsed Trump this early on shows that DeSantis really doesn't have the support of the Republican Party right now. And specifically, this is from 538. They have a very good tracker of endorsements, a very interesting point system that's helpful as well. He's lost a lot of the Florida Republicans, even the ones that he probably should be gaining. So again, not a great sign. And someone like Carlos Gimenez, he is a pretty moderate representative, at least on the issues. The fact that he's endorsing Trump, I think he actually voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. That's not a good sign for someone like Ron DeSantis at all. Now, going into the polling data, polling also has not looked great for DeSantis either. In every single poll that's come out, it looks like Trump is leading. So it does seem that Trump has the very strong upper hand here. And again, DeSantis hasn't announced yet. It's looking like he will. But again, it's really not good for you to be this far behind in this election. Again, it is still very early. And I think the only time where DeSantis came up a lot was right after the 2022 midterms, where Trump did get a lot of the blame for losing so many competitive elections in 2022 because he was endorsing a lot of the more extreme far right candidates, and they ended up losing the general elections to Democrats. He got a lot of blame for that, and honestly, rightfully so. But that still ended up being only a short boost for DeSantis, because right after that, DeSantis's approvals went way down as well. This possibly could be because they saw DeSantis as being the possible alternative, but then they probably didn't like seeing DeSantis's job so far. So this is something very interesting to see. And I think the biggest challenge for DeSantis here is he has to figure out how he can balance the Trump factor. He has avoided directly criticizing Donald Trump, which is, I think, very interesting considering he's Trump's main rival right now. Trump has called DeSantis a bunch of names. DeSantis hasn't really responded back. He maybe responded once towards him, but he hasn't directly confronted him. He has a very delicate balancing act between making sure he doesn't lose those Trump supporters, but he also wants to be able to differentiate himself from Trump at least enough so he can still get those voters. So that's very, very interesting to see how DeSantis is going to balance that. So if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't see DeSantis having much of a shot at winning the nomination this time around. I would give it a 15% chance at most for him to win the nomination, but it does look like right now that this is going to be Trump's nomination to lose. But it should be noted that I think DeSantis would probably be the more electable candidate compared to Trump in the general election. Eric and I will make a video in the future taking a look at that, what a DeSantis versus Biden election will look like. I think, to be honest, I think Biden still wins right now, but it's definitely something to take a look at and analyze further. And I think also very interesting now that I see it, Chris Christie, I think, is also going to hop into this race. It's going to be interesting to see how he impacts this election as well. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching this episode. I know it's been a very long time, but if you like this episode, please like one. If you like our content, please subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video at some point. See ya.